Kamen Rider.
3, 2, 1.
It's the final day of Rider Belt Week, and how else could I end an entire week of henshin belt reviews than by reviewing the current and one of the biggest and most complete belts I have ever owned in the Fourze driver, or Fourze driver, whichever way you want. It's a potato-potato thing. And yeah, a lot of you saw it coming, but it's the natural conclusion to this week. And as it is still part of this week, no real change in format. We look at the detailing first, and honestly, this time, we're kind of sparse on painted details. I mean, we've got black painted around the central screen. We've got some silver painted in front of each of the switch slots, with a little bit of molded detail just to remind you which shape switch goes where, and the red toggles in the front that activate them. That's pretty much it. There is a little bit of gold down here at the bottom, just on the opposite side of the handle. Speaking of, the handle itself actually got just as much paint as the rest of the belt. You can see, say it with me now, gunmetal gray there on the base. And some white on the inside, and on the outside, some very pale metallic blue. Molding detail-wise, there's a little bit of grooves going through it. I like a little bit of that detailing going on. Very techno kind of, well, let's make the obvious comparison, space-age detailing. All this translucent plastic is supposed to give it this kind of space-age, high-tech feel. I think even the exposed circuitry inside the slots, because you can even see the wiring coming through on some of these, I all think this is supposed to make it look a little bit more high-tech. Here on the back, tons of molded detail. Kind of strange for something that's going to press against your belly when you're wearing it. I mean, I will be honest, the translucent plastic did bug me at first. I've kind of grown used to it, but I don't know, I think I would have preferred something a little bit more solid and opaque. The thing that still bugs me and I can't get used to is the handle. I mean, honestly, if I set the toy back and just look at it, it just seems tacked on, unfortunately. I mean, function-wise, I like it. I mean, once we get to playing with the belt, it plays in really well. But just on its own, just the way it looks, I don't know. It's just kind of stuck on. Let me turn it on and show you the screen. As I said, loud. We've got the big spaceman in the front, all four arms lighting up in red. We'll see those as we continue to play. The gimmick this year, of course, are the switches, which insert into these sockets. Now, the belt itself comes with 4, which we will get this belt out of the way to look at now. Number 1 is the number 1 switch, Rocket. Appropriately enough, you can see a metallic glitter sticker on the front showing the logo for it. It is a simple, kind of a rocket-firing switch, as you would expect. Number 2 you get is Launcher, with a rocket launcher logo on the front with the number 2. You can see it is the X shape, and it has kind of a big forward pushing switch. I actually really like the simple function of this one. You know, if it was like a little larger, like little launching switch. Yeah, it launches. Looks cool. Like it. Number 3, we have Drill in yellow. This one is a triangle switch, and as you can see by the arrow, this time the switch is a rotational version, which well, I guess that's appropriate for a drill now, isn't it? Again, logo on the front, there's a drill, and it's glittery. Very nice. And last but not least, we have Radar. Number 4, Radar logo on the front. This time, the switch is a wheel that moves back and forth and can click into its on position. This one's a little odd because it's black in color on very dark, translucent black plastic. So it's actually very hard to tell that this is actually painted or not. You actually have to kind of hold it up to a light to be able to tell the difference. Still, black switch works. As you can see, there is kind of a 45-degree angle to this, which means, of course, this is another one of those belts that is smart enough to let the wearer see the light show going on, as well as anyone in front. But for the sake of this review, we're going to switch angles a few times just so you can get a really good picture about what's going on. So, we will start from the beginning, of course, with the rocket. The limb that corresponds to the switch lights up when inserting, and of course you get the voice.
Roger.
With English. Great English coming out of this one. Doriel. Now, the dirty little secret behind this belt, you really only need one switch inserted to activate henshin. But for the sake of being complete about this, I'm going to demonstrate it properly, with all 4 installed and all 4 toggle switches turned to the down position. As you hit each one, and it doesn't matter what order you do it in, you're going to get the standby noises beginning. And it sounds like that. Once a toggle switch is turned on with a switch inserted in the socket, you'll notice that the arm stays lit up to indicate that limb is now activated. The pitch gets higher every one I use until we are ready for the final one. Now, from here, we are going to get the sound effect we all know from this belt once I hit that 4th toggle switch. But after that, you'll get a standby noise you don't normally hear in the show because the henshin goes so fast. A very impatient standby noise, so I'll let you hear it first before we do this properly. Very impatient. Okay, for real this time. Henshin. I love the rainbow LEDs they have in these types of belts now. There you can see Fourze fully lit up. You can now make out his entire silhouette. Very cool. This will stay lit on for about 20 or 30 seconds as you decide what you want to do from here. But whenever you turn on a switch, it'll come back. It's basically just a power saver mode. So, what next? We've got 4 switches here. Well, I guess I'll go in order again, won't I? Pressing down. And get a blast-off noise. Now, launcher. I love explosions. You'll note when a switch is actually activated, the limb will now blink to remind you that that switch is in an on position. That will come into play here in a few minutes. Next, drill. Very loud drill. Okay, finally, radar. Very strange signal noise, but I don't know, we can work with it. Now, for these, going to the opposite direction is how you deactivate them, and you have the corresponding noise to tell you that. I really like all the different sound effects you get out of these things. What is really weird to me is 2 different voices for the switches. It almost sounds like they're trying to convey that the belt has a voice and the switches have a voice. Kind of odd how that works, but it does work. And then you've got the guy counting down, so that's 3 voice actors that have gone into this belt. From here we've got one more function that we can activate, and that's if we pull the lever while a switch is activated. This initiates the limit break. Now, it doesn't matter how many switches you have turned on, the belt will respond correctly. For instance, that was the rocket limit break. If I want to have the rocket drill, turn the drill on and do it again. while it will add the name of the switches to the limit break's attack name, it unfortunately doesn't change that final hit. So while, yes, there are a ton of variations you can do between all the switches, it is kind of limited, honestly, in that you've only got one attack noise at the end. Oh well, still, it's a neat little function. Now, we can turn off. It's also important to note that as you switch the switches, the little man in the middle will stay on until all 4 have been removed, and then it basically resets the belt back to the beginning. To turn off, and once again, he will only go off when all 4 have been deactivated. And we're back to square one, and for the record, you don't need the henshin sequence if you just want to use the switches sound effects. But if you want more ways of playing around, this belt has a lot of expansion possibilities. Let me see if I have any. Oh, come on! Really? Jeez. Oh well. Luckily, this isn't where I keep my Fourze switches. I have a much better place for them to go. Here we go. My handy-dandy switchboard displaying my entire collection as it is now. I almost wanted to delay this review so I could show it to you when it was completely filled out, but we'll run with it now. Just looking at this, you can see how much variety there is to the Fourze driver, not only in sound effect combinations with 40 normal switches available, not to mention meteors plus 19 writer switches, also in the functions themselves. I mean, you've got all different kinds you can push, little switches, little flips, toggles, there's scissors, we've got little rollers like chain array, there's hammer, we got twist ones like water, there's winch, you pull, little light switch on flash. Tons and tons of little things you can do, whatever type of little switch you like, or at least if there's any other type you would prefer. If you like to have more that twist, you can do that. If you have more that can push, you can do that. It's a very modular belt. You can basically arrange it to play however you want it to play. Now there are a few things you should know. For starters, there are 37 standard switches for Fourze, 38 if you include meteors. And while the belt does know all of their names in both voices, which means you can customize the limit break sound to any combination you desire, some of the noises are generic and probably won't sound right for the switch. Hopping is a good example of that. The other thing you need to know are the writer switches. You can see all of them, at least made now, are translucent plastic and harder to come by because they were released in weird ways. You can get DX ones now that match the other ones a lot better. But when buying those, be aware. All of the Showa era writers have the same noises after their names are said. And on most of the Heisei writers, they go for the henshin noise, even if it does cheap out a little bit on some of them. There's also a couple with unimpressive henshin noises, so they have other effects. Blade, for instance, has the activation sound of a rouse card. Guess which other switch was too lame for its henshin? Also, while it is a formality, there are only switches for main writers in the Heisei era, and there's only the first 7 Showa writers. But as you can see, there is a vast number that you can collect, and those are just the pre-programmed ones. That doesn't even include ones like Super Rocket, which in a very clever move actually extends the activation noise for Rocket built into the belt into a full transformation noise. Very, very cool. And it doesn't include big electronic ones like the mag phone that work completely independently from the driver. But those are for another time. Other than a few aesthetic preferences, I can't recommend this belt enough. It is a fantastic toy with a lot of playability right out of the box, and the features on it are just fun to play with. It's all the fun of the mad scientist computer panel you saw in cartoons and movies as a kid. All kinds of things to punch and press, turn, pull. It is the epitome of fiddling around. All in all, a very fulfilling belt, and thankfully, much easier to find now than it was a few months ago. So if you've been eyeballing it, if you've been wavering on it, buy in good faith. This is an awesome toy. And this has been an awesome experience the last week. Thank you for sticking through 7 Rider Belt reviews in a row. Hopefully your favorite rider was featured. If your favorite rider was Ryuki, I apologize. And if your favorite rider didn't make the week, don't worry. I'm not going anywhere, and I've still got plenty of toys to review. Who knows? He might be right around the corner. Or he might take me a couple years. All kind of depends. Until next time.